Hello, welcome to the Bigger Truth Show. I am, as you can see, I'm in a new studio. So I was moving much of last week and still working out the bugs. There's a lot of moving parts with what you see behind what you can't see behind the camera. So I've got it all worked out and I think everything's working. So I am excited for today's show. We're going to be going into kind of my thoughts on Trump's appointment of Kash Patel. And I titled this Making Sense of Kash. And I'm not sure that it really makes sense to me. So I'm going to put that out there right from the beginning. I'm going to kind of share various perspectives. I've been seeking perspectives from lots of different people. And so I'm going to kind of summarize a lot of what I've heard from others. And I'm going to share some of my thoughts and we'll just kind of go from there. So hopefully this will be helpful and I'm sure it'll be interesting. And in the end, where I'm at right now, and this is kind of where we'll end too, is that as soon as Trump was elected, I said, this is great. You know, I was really obviously happy about that. And I said that things are going to get better, but that doesn't mean that everything's going to get fixed, and not everything is going to be perfect. Trump is not a perfect man. There is no perfect man except for Jesus. And so, you know, he will make mistakes, and but the hope is that things are better, and I think things will be better, and things are better. And so if you're watching live, welcome. I see Johnny B007. Hey there, welcome. Glad you're here. So let's get into first, just looking at the Kash Patel thing from lots of different perspectives. I'm going to open with Roger Stone's perspective. And I think that this is important. And so here he is. He's actually, this clip is from Jack Posobiec's show, and Roger Stone was a guest host on Jack Posobiec's show. So here he goes.
And is Kash Patel. Now, Kash Patel served as the senior counsel to the House Intelligence Committee when Devin Nunes was chairman. Kash Patel was really the man who's conducted the only legitimate and honest investigation of the entire Russian collusion hoax.
Okay. So that, I don't think that is true really at all. I'd say that his investigation is more honest than the Mueller investigation. I would say that's probably true. But was it perfect? No, I really do not think that it was perfect. In fact, he left out all of Flynn's involvement, and I'm not sure how you can investigate what happened there without exploring what was Flynn's involvement and why did he do the things that he did, because much of it doesn't make sense, as I've gone over it at some depth. Much of it doesn't make sense unless Flynn was actually trying to harm Trump's campaign and ultimately his presidency. So I just don't see how Kash could have investigated it for as long as he did without asking those questions. I just don't see how he could have. And further, what he wrote in his book was a just absolute revisionist history. I mean, he never once mentioned Crossfire Razor, and the documents are out there. I don't see how he could not have mentioned Crossfire Razor, because it was very clear. He never mentioned Trump's or Flynn's involvement with the Turkish government, receiving over $500,000 from the Turkish government in exchange for spying on a legal U.S. resident. And so, he wasn't a citizen, but he's a Turkish cleric that was residing here, who in July, Flynn wrote an op-ed where he was praising the guy. And then on election day of 2016, the day that Trump was elected, he publishes a hit piece on this guy, which is just so weird. If he's working on Trump's campaign on election day, you'd think that he would write something about Trump and, something positive about Trump. But what he wrote, his op-ed that was published in the Hill, so it was, you know, pretty major publication, and it was all about Turkey and this guy that was the enemy that he was paid to make his enemy, and so it was a hit piece on him, and so he went 180 because of his work there, or because of, you know, what he was paid. So, but all of that, and he should have registered as a foreign agent because he was representing the Turkish government as he was working on Trump's campaign after being under investigation by the FBI. And he definitely knew that he was under investigation in November. He likely knew before that. He likely knew as early as August or even before that Flynn did, that he was under investigation by the FBI, but he never told Trump until January, after he had already been chosen as the new national security advisor. And so he kept that knowledge that he was under investigation by the FBI from Trump. I mean, obviously, I think it's pretty clear Trump would not have chosen somebody that's under investigation by the FBI to be his national security advisor. I just don't see how he would have made that choice. But okay, so back to Roger. Let's hear what more. And this is before Trump announced. This was, you know, part of just one of so many examples of the whole Flynn network just going in a way that was just obnoxious, going all out promoting Kash Patel. So here is some more of Roger Stone promoting Kash.
Kash Patel has served with distinction as the acting chief of staff of the U.S. Department of Defense. That's a big job, folks. It's a huge management job. Kash Patel is a former federal prosecutor who has personally prosecuted at least 60 individual intelligence cases. He's proven his loyalty. He's proven his courage. And when it comes to the FBI, particularly on the top floor, he knows exactly where the bodies are buried.
That kind of makes me throw up in my mouth a little bit. You know, that's obviously what they say ad nauseum. The whole Flynn cult says that ad nauseum about Flynn. So apparently, you know, they've done a lot to try to meld Kash and Flynn. You know, that was a lot of this was trying to meld the two of them. But, you know, I just in looking at Crossfire Hurricane and what happened with the Russia collusion thing, and looking at how synchronized Kash's investigation with Devin Nunes and Dan Bongino's reporting at the time, looking at how just off the walls Dan Bongino went over Kash, and how he was attacking anonymous accounts that were not that were being critical of Kash. You know, there's just there is reason. There's reason to be critical, and that's okay. So, Natalie says, "So, what are we thinking, Scott? Good or bad choice? I know he was with Clay, but so were Trump's two oldest kids. What in the world?" And so that's the question. And so to cut to it, I don't know. I think that I just texted another perspective that I got was from somebody. I have a source within the Reawaken Tour world who has been, and even up until recently, at all of the Reawaken Tour events, and this person told me that Kash never hung out with Flynn at those events, never hung out with Clay Clark at those events. The only people that he hung out with at those events were Eric and Don Jr. and Alina Habba. He would fly in right beforehand. He would fly out right afterwards. This person said that he wouldn't even hang out in the green room. He would go and stand in line by himself for the food truck and get his own food. And that this person had a lot of respect for him for that, just for the way that he comported himself at those events. And so, you know, that is encouraging. I would also say that I watched the MG show today, and Jeff and Shannon, I spoke with them yesterday at length about this before they recorded the show. So This was on Sunday. We talked at length about it. I talked with both Jeff and Shannon, and so I was able to ask them some questions about it, and they really what their story. If you haven't seen the MG show, they kind of tell two stories, and so the first story is about Devolution, We the Media, and Badlands Media, that was headed primarily by a guy named John. Um, oh, my mind's blank. Um, if you know it, remind me. But the I want to say Harper or something like that. Um, but uh, they were this guy that was heading it. He was using the handle of Patel Patriot, and so all of the QP and all their messaging, it was a total psyop, and people were just completely brainwashed by it, and they thought that the white hats they were their whole messaging was the white hats in the military are going to take over the black hats, and they're going to take the military back, and then Trump's going to be reinstalled, and everything's going to be amazing. John Harold, yes, John Harold, thank you, Carrie. John Harold, and um, and so he went by, he used the handle Patel Patriot, and so Jeff and Shannon's story is that um, Eric Reinhold is they said is Cash Patel's lifelong friend, like since they were kids, and like his best friend. And Reinhold came to Jeff and Shannon and another guy named Alex that they had on their show today, and said that Cash was pretty pissed that he was making himself out to be, he's using this Patel Patriot, and all of the Q world that believed in all of this garbage, really, that that Trump was, this was in 21 and 22, that Trump was going to be, he was going to ride back in on his white horse and be the president again. That these that they all believed that those messages were coming directly from Cash Patel. And so Cash was understandably pretty pissed about that, that he felt that he was being he was being imitated, or that they were using his name, and leading people to believe that it was him, especially with all the crazy ideas that were coming out of it. So um, according to Jeff and Shannon, and you can watch the MG show to get to get all their story, and their receipts, and the screenshots of messages and stuff. Reinhold and Cash came to them, asked them to help to crush and destroy, take out Devolution, Badlands Media, and We the Media. They were getting like 1 million views a month, or some crazy number of views for the dribble that they were putting out back then. And so they exposed them. They exposed that Cash had nothing to do with them, and that what they were putting out was lies, and their audience like really fell apart, cratered. And so Red Pill Pusher, who is also, I don't know who it is, but it is a account that follows me, and we've been friendly with each other, anonymous account, posted on True Social about that. And apparently just after Trump announced that he was going to nominate Cash, and both Cash and Reinhold liked that post right away. So so there's that story. There's that story that, and that devolution, the part of what they were saying is that devolution, Badlands Media, We the Media, that group around John Harold, that they were very closely linked to Flynn, and that the whole Flynn network, according to Jeff and Shannon at that time, they were very much opposed to Cash. So they were fighting against Cash as Cash was trying to take down those. And it's not just John Harold; it was all the followers, all the whole Flynn network, and they said even Flynn himself, like they were all trashing Cash at that time. And so then you get Roger Stone here, and Flynn and everybody else just licking his boots, and acting like they've always loved Cash, and that they're his best friend. And they play the little clip from over a year ago of Cash Patel saying, well, sure, I'll be the FBI director or the attorney general or whatever Flynn asked him, as long as they make Flynn the secretary of defense. And so that leads to the other story. So Diesel says X22 is a big devolution pusher too. Yes, that's right. That's Scott Kesterton. He's big time part of the Flynn network. He's got Flynn. He just had Byrne on his show just a few days ago. Somebody sent me that, but yeah. So that is got a couple more comments here. Kashat Patel was mentioned in the Q post in 2018 as a name to remember, and there's a clip of media asking Trump if he has a secret weapon, to which Trump replies, "Cash." So yeah, I mean that it could be. And the other thing that Jeff and Shannon, hey, Jeff's here, awesome, so glad you're here, in the Matrix. And so the other thing that they said that was that of everybody that was in the Flynn network, they'd had Cash on their show twice, and of everybody that was in the Flynn network, the one person that really came to them wanting to know after they started speaking out against Flynn in August of last year was Kash Patel, and Kash Patel came to them and wanted everything that they had on Flynn, and that so they said that they gave him everything, and when I had first went on the MG show, all of the historical stuff about Flynn, they've been talking about this for over a year. The part of my research that was new was the work that the Flynn network had done within state Republican parties and within churches, and several other details. But Jeff and Shannon have done an excellent job of exposing Flynn and looking at his role in the Russia collusion and all of that over the last year. And so they have shared that information with Kash Patel, so he knows it. So then, the only, there are a few possible explanations. And so one possible explanation and path here is that Kash, he's kind of been like a double agent. That kind of lines up with my source within the Reawaken tour saying that Kash never associated with Flynn, even at the Reawaken tour events. He just kind of hung out by himself. He'd hang out with Alina Haba and Eric Trump and Don Jr. And so he was, acting in the same way that they were, as I've suggested repeatedly, that Don Jr. and Eric Trump were running, and Alina Haba were running an intel op against Clay Clark and Flynn and the whole Flynn network. Just keeping tabs on what was going on, holding the coalition together, those kinds of things, and that Kash was a part of that as well. And so that is one possible explanation of that. To me, it still doesn't explain his book, although his book happened before. So maybe he just didn't know that, I don't know. Or maybe there was some other reason why he was leaving Flynn out. He knew that there's no way to prosecute him at that time because, Trump was out of office, because he wrote the book after 2020. It took a while to get it declassified. Maybe an explanation is that he knew that had he described Flynn's role and what was going on there, that he knew that it wouldn't have been approved by the government. And so that, because the government did need to approve of it because he was sharing information that had been classified. So he knew, maybe he just didn't include it. But to me, that doesn't explain chapter 12, which is such glowing praise of Flynn. It's revisionist history to make Flynn appear to be a complete victim hero. And so, I struggle with that. And just that's where I'm at. Like, I don't know. And this is, I love situations like this. And this is why I got into this in the first place, is when you have, when it's really difficult to discern what is true. To me, that's just absolutely fascinating. I get excited about that. And so I am absolutely still researching, and both into this makes me want to probe even deeper into Cash's background and his investigation into Crossfire Razor. And there's some documents that I am looking into that have not been released, And so I'm working on that. And there will be more information on that. I think that there's a lot more that we need to know. And I have had sources that have come to me really nervous since they heard about Cash, that are just really concerned that they will never get justice because of the things that the Flynn and his network have done to them, and they're just really concerned that Cash shielded Flynn in his book, and so he'll shield Flynn in whatever investigations come out. Now, is Cash going to be better no matter what happens than Christopher Wray? I'm certain of it. I'm certain that Cash is going to be better than Christopher Wray, and or at least I would be shocked if he's not. Is he going to, like what the media on the left is saying, and Andrew McCabe and all this, that he's going to prosecute all of Trump's political enemies? No, I don't think he's going to prosecute all of Trump's political enemies, and it's going to be, they're trying to make it sound like it's going to become like Hitler's brown shirts or something, or the Gestapo. I don't think that that's what's going to happen. I think that they're going to prosecute people who've committed crimes, and he's, if all that Cash did was prosecute the people that he names in the book, that would be good. I mean, that wouldn't. I mean, to me, it would be disappointing because I want to see these psyopers come to justice. I think so many of us do, but the ones that have committed the biggest psyops in terms of touching the most people are those on the left. And so if all that happens is we get justice for those people, okay, that's good. But another thing that concerns me is Cash's involvement with Jesse Banal and the BIS law group. And Jesse Banal in particular, he is Mike Flynn's primary litigation attorney. He was also involved representing him during in his case against the government before Trump pardoned him. And Jesse Banal has been a paid subscriber of my Substack. So if you are not subscribed to my Substack, please do. Even Jesse Banal wanted to, at least to research me. Well, when I saw that he was, I actually refunded his money and blocked him. But so that's that. I got a few comments here. Gnostic Death Cult says, not sure if I missed this at the beginning, but is there any truth to Cash being denied a security clearance? I don't know. I don't know that that's the case. I'm not sure. I think, what I do know, let me look at this. Hang on just a second. Let me find it here. I got an email this morning with some interesting research. And there's one thing in here that, so from 2014 to early 17, Kash Patel served as a trial attorney in the DOJ's National Security Division. And he was working counterterrorism. So this was under Obama, until Trump became president. And Roger Stone, said that to some extent, but he also apparently was serving as a legal liaison to Joint Special Operations Command, which JSOC, that is that's military intelligence. That's what Flynn led in Afghanistan. And it's also so Christina Bobb was doing that as well when she graduated from college under Flynn and McChrystal in Afghanistan. So yeah, these are things that I'm digging deeper into, but that right there is a really, to me, that's an interesting tidbit. And maybe I'm totally willing to concede that maybe Cash has had something of a come to Jesus of sorts with Trump, and that he is, he's had something of an awakening, and his loyalty to Trump supersedes loyalty to anyone else, and he will pursue justice. I have no doubt at all that Trump knows about the things that Flynn has done to him. I'm not sure that he knows everything. because there's a lot. I'm not sure that he understands the depth to which the whole Flynn network and the Kochs as well were engaged in psyops against him in 2020 after the 2020 election and up through January 6th. I think he has some understanding of it, but there's so many different people that were involved that were within his campaign and his administration. I'm just not sure that he is aware of all of the people that were involved. Maybe he is. He may be. Um, hey, Monster Louie, glad you're here. Diesel says, funny how all the Flynn bros only Cash hashtag only Cash pushing halted just a few days before he got the nod. Yeah, and so there is some of that. There was some feigned. I was looking at all of the Sidney Powells, the General Flynn, the Patrick Byrne, all of their accounts to see what they were saying and how much of a victory lap they were taking over Cash. For as much as they were pushing him, it's fairly muted. I mean, there are celebratory posts on X for most of them, not Sidney Powell, but for most of them, there are celebratory posts. And but it's a lot more muted than I would expect for the amount of time that they spent working. You'd think that they'd be still doing a victory lap and taking credit for this choice. But I would agree that that there's probably some nervousness there. Nicole Torina says, maybe because he's still under investigation or has a sealed indictment. I don't know, just asking. And yeah, there may be, and I think that there are some documents that have been deliberately withheld that would shed light on a lot of this, and I'm working on it. So I'm sure others are as well, but I've got some good help. So I think we'll see where it goes. Lauren Turner says, I suspect it will be a partial help because he will prosecute some, but he's going to cover for others. Yeah, and that could be kind of this middle road. Ariel was saying, either he's good or he's bad, and maybe he'll be a little bit of gray. I think he probably will. I think that's probably the most likely. Cindy says the bigger fish will be military tribunals, so we won't hear about them. Maybe. I personally, I don't put much stock in that. Lauren says, the one thing Cash said he would do was close the FBI headquarters and disperse the agents out of DC. That might make a huge change just to start with. Yes. I think if there could be a way of the problem is that sheriff's department, I've heard a lot of people say, all we need is sheriffs. And I disagree with that. I mean, I'm a county commissioner. I know my own sheriff personally. And we have a pretty well-funded sheriff's department because we just passed a millage. And before that, we had a very poorly funded sheriff's department, very understaffed. It was terrible. And but even though we're now a fairly well-funded department, they don't have the bandwidth or resources to investigate or coordinate with other sheriffs on people who are committing federal crimes or interstate crimes. Like that's just not it. I think that I would say that the vast majority of sheriff's departments just do not have the bandwidth, the knowledge, the technology, the expertise, any of that to engage in the type of large scale, like a RICO type investigation. It wouldn't happen. I think we need some sort of a national police force, especially given the nature of national crime, crimes that are committed in every state. And you need some sort of a force that has the ability to investigate and to investigate cybercrime on a high level and that kind of thing. Diesel says the FBI building all boarded up and shut down in DC, as many are saying. I don't know. I actually, I know some people in DC. I will see if I can get pictures. We'll see. I will work on that. I think that's a great idea. Yeah, I don't know if they are, if they're really shut down. I would be very surprised, but maybe it is. JRM says Flynn's organ, and I think Ariel was saying that. I don't know. JRM says Flynn's organization was also named similarly like PNAC it was all about running the counterintelligence ops in Afghanistan and Iraq, only to undermine Eric Prince and Cofer Black's Blackwater. Interesting. Yeah, there's so many, and they're working. Flynn was working obviously very closely with the First Amendment Praetorian, which was kind of like his private security militia that was registered as a government contractor. And crazy enough, they actually First Amendment Praetorian registered as a government contractor on the same exact day, November 25th, 2020, the same exact day that Flynn was pardoned. That is a crazy little piece of trivia there. Maybe it's just a coincidence. And the Matrix says whoever is involved in Russia should be shaking in their boots. And yeah, I think so. And we will see about Flynn. I really hope, it is very, very clear. And really what this does is this makes the work that I'm doing and other journalists, investigative journalists are doing on Flynn, that much more important, because the more that the public knows about what really happened, the harder it is to hide and to do just a partial investigation. So yeah, and this work is really important. And I think that for sure, those on the left that have been enjoying the cover of that the government under Biden has afforded them, and even under Trump's administration, under the rogue bureaucracy, the deep state, that I think that they are clearly very nervous. Bonster Louis says, I'm sure they are, absolutely. And sheriffs and elected officials, Aaron's Rod says, sheriffs and elected officials don't even need to be experienced in police work. And that's exactly right. I mean, I could run for sheriff, and I don't even have any experience in police work, and I could run for sheriff. And if I won, I remember reading about a transgender, like this scrawny goth transgender that won a sheriff's race in Pennsylvania, with no police experience whatsoever. And yeah, if you win the election, that's all you need, right? That is, we need to be wise voters, don't we? And we need good media. There's footage of FBI and IRS are shut down. So send it to me. I'd be happy to look at it, or tag me on it or something. I'd like to look at it. The reason why I was late today in starting is because I was all day in training for police, or for for county commissioner training. And so I have not been completely plugged in today. I really haven't been very plugged in at all. Been focused on learning about being a county commissioner. JRM says, I'm purely curious to know and understand, why would a 4-star lieutenant general not run for election if he's so hell-bent on bringing about radical changes to our civilian government? And why are the other generals not interested in a similar way as Flynn? That's a good question. I think that most of the other generals are pretty overtly on the left, and the way the Democrat Party works, I mean, they obviously, they've shown us over and over that they choose their own candidates. And so, but I really do think that he was going to run. I mean, Roger Stone admitted multiple times that they were running a contingency campaign for president for Flynn in case something happened to Trump. And I think that had Trump been killed on July 13th, then 2 days later at the convention probably would have been delayed, but I think that ultimately Flynn would have been the nominee. And I also think because they didn't force Biden to step down until the end of the Republican convention. And so I think had Flynn become the nominee, I don't think that they would have caused Biden to step down. I think that they would have kind of coordinated, the media would have continued their attacks that they were engaged on against Biden. That's my own speculation, but I think that Flynn would be our president right now if Trump had been shot. Shibby Shipster says it is about time that they are nervous. Yes, absolutely. And and Cash means business. He certainly does. I mean, he's talking serious. He's talking a serious game, and um, so Flynn should seek a people's mandate and run for office. Well, yeah, I suppose. I mean, if he wants to run, he should run an honest campaign. But I think that he knows that. I don't know that there's no chance that he could have ever beat Trump. They were talking about. I think that they were talking from uh, January 6th, 2021. I think they were talking about Flynn running for president um, if Trump hadn't run, and because they knew that Flynn couldn't beat Trump. But um, let me go to and that's kind of actually related. I want to break down this video. I want to take about take a I want to go through this video slowly. And this is something I played before, and I'm sure everyone's seen it because it's made the rounds. This is from A Storm Foretold, but I want to take our time with it because I've watched this, I don't know, 20 times, and each time I get something new from it. So I think that this is really, really significant. So this is the kind of the infamous scene from A Storm Foretold. It's Roger Stone's phone call, and I want first think about who is he talking to. I think he's talking to Flynn. I think he's got to be talking to either Flynn, Patrick Byrne, or Sidney Powell, and we'll explore why that is. But let's go ahead.
Right. Well, you don't understand people. I do. Rod should hold a press conference today and call for Trump's impeachment. That's what I would do. I'm going to do it. I'm supporting impeachment. I'm supporting impeachment. He must be removed. His son Jared must be prosecuted. I want to know how money changed hands on Bannon. I want a federal investigation. I'm filing a complaint with the.
Okay, so he said, I want to know how money changed hands on Bannon. I'm pretty sure that's what he's just said. Let me replay that.
Prosecuted. I want to know how money changed hands on Bannon. I want a federal investigation. I'm filing a complaint with the FBI this afternoon.
Okay, so if that's what he's saying, if you think he's saying something different, I'm very open. Need more volume on the video. Here, I will turn down. Maybe this will help. I'll turn down my volume, and then you could turn up your volume. So hopefully that helps. I'm gonna play it one more time.
Know how money changed hands on Bannon. I want a federal investigation. I'm filing a complaint with the FBI this afternoon. Fuck these people. Fuck.
All right. So let me just, because I'm very interested in your feedback. So Spill TT says Bannon was the one leaking from within the White House to take out Jared and Ivanka. It's in Jared book, Breaking History. That I haven't read Jared's book, so that I will. That's a good. I appreciate that. And that was while Bannon was the chief of staff. And it's not that, actually I've heard that from multiple sources. So yeah, I definitely think that Bannon was leaking while he was in the White House. I don't think he was the only one. I think that there were others, because even after he left, there were still leaks, although there were fewer. I think that Bannon was definitely a chaos agent. He was definitely leaking. And, there were some huge problems with him in the White House. He was a destructive influence. But I'm very curious what he's talking about money changing hands with, because this is on January 6th when this was recorded. So, yeah. And the language is gross. And I don't have it.
Right. So, right. Exactly. Which is why I'm for the impeachment. I want impeachment. I'm going to work very hard for it. I'm not kidding.
Okay, so let me just go back, because you can almost hear a voice here, and I'm gonna
exactly, which is why I'm for the impeachment. These people. Right. So, right. Exactly, which is why I'm for the impeachment. I want impeachment. I'm going to work very hard for it. I'm not kidding. He betrayed Bernie, betrayed Rudy, betrayed everybody. So he
Okay, so he betrayed, and he's talking about Trump betraying Bernie Carrick and Rudy. So Bernie Carrick was working directly under Rudy Giuliani as kind of his assistant. Bernie Carrick has been friends with Trump for a very long time, since long before Trump got into politics, from Trump's days in New York, when Bernie Carrick was the New York the police commissioner. He had, he had been in NYPD for his whole career, and I think that I actually I said last week that I liked Bernie Carrick for FBI director. Um, so the question then is, how does Roger Stone think that Trump betrayed Bernie and Rudy? And that is, I can't say that I have that completely figured out. I'm very open to your thoughts, but I think, and where I really think that is in his mind, is in Trump refusing to sign the Insurrection Act. I think that that's what he's talking about here. But let's go on, because I think that'll become a little more clear.
He has to go. He has to go. He has to go. Run again. You'll get your fucking brains beat in. Right. Right. Which is good, unfortunately, for Pat, because he's easy to find. Fuck these people.
Okay, so he's talking about Pat. That's Pat Cipollone. And this is why I'm starting to think that this is what he's really talking about, is the December 18th meeting. On December 18th, 2020, Mike Flynn, Patrick Byrne, and Sidney Powell got into the West Wing of the White House. Garrett Ziegler let them in. He couldn't get Mike Lindell in, so Mike Lindell hung out in the Rose Garden and leaked some document. That he had a piece of paper that he was holding up as he was on the phone, and that piece of paper said, martial, calling martial law. It had their steps, the Insurrection Act. So that kind of leaked it out to the public, and I think that he was deliberate in that. So, but it was Pat Cipollone was the reason why. So at the end of that meeting, their whole purpose, and it's been well documented, that the whole purpose of that December 18th meeting was to try to persuade Trump to sign the Insurrection Act and to give Sidney Powell the power of a special prosecutor to investigate the 7 counties in the 7 swing states where there was the most fraud, and to confiscate all the ballots and the machines and do a hand count and an investigation. And I strongly believe, and this is my opinion, I strongly believe that and watching A Storm Foretold, it very much looked to me like he was working out a plan. And this is the whole reason why it was called A Storm Foretold. It was all something that was planned out from in the beginning, from before the election even happened. I think that this was planned out even before COVID into early 2020, where they were planning on using COVID as an excuse for all the mail-in ballots. They wanted to have a ballot for every vote. Then they would get Trump to sign the Insurrection Act, and then they would do, because everybody would think it's the machines from the very beginning, because everybody's talking about the machines, and so a hand recount should surely find the fraud, right? It would just be obvious. All they have to do is just get the ballots and hand recount them, and that's what the Insurrection Act would do, is have the military do a hand recount of the ballots, but then they would find that there's a ballot for every vote. And I think that what would have happened is that would have been the basis of a legitimate legal prosecution against Trump for actual treason. And I think the Democrats would have sought hanging. They would have sought the death penalty for it. And so that is why I think that this conversation right here, as they're reflecting, and I think he's talking with Flynn, Byrne, or Sidney Powell, somebody who was there on December 18th in that meeting. And they're talking about how everything after January 6th, it's so obvious. I mean, it's undeniable that Roger Stone is extremely angry about something. And I think that what he's most angry about is that Trump didn't sign the Insurrection Act. And I think that that's the same with whoever he's on the line with. But let's finish up.
Let's be very clear. There is no in cocksucker. It's one sentence. One sentence. So if you're in a meeting and he says that, you punch him in the mouth as hard as you can to make your point. It's one sentence. We're not stupid. There is no paperwork, you cocksucker. He needs to be impeached.
Okay, so one sentence. There's just one sentence that he had to say. There is no paperwork. What is that? What is that? Is it that I mean, it's also clear in the movie. And again, if you haven't seen this movie, the movie is A Storm Foretold. And I will, if you haven't seen it, I'll if you don't have a link to it, you could DM me. I just don't want to publish it because I'm pretty sure that Roger Stone actually sued the filmmaker. It's a Danish filmmaker. It is not available on any US streaming site. There are some essentially pirated copies, I believe, on Rumble. But you can watch it if you use a VPN and go to another country's streaming site and use your VPN to make it look like you're in that country, and then you can watch it that way. um, so, but it is an extraordinary work of documentary filmmaking. So, and this is towards the end, as you've seen Roger Stone in all along work towards promoting narratives that would incite violence. Of course, then he always says to the camera that he only advocates for peace. Right? As everything that he's doing is working towards violence, right? A few comments here. Let's see. Oh yeah, I already read that one. Let's see. Yeah, this is about the documentary. And yeah, the movie keeps getting taken down over and over again. So I would be happy to share with you a link. If you DM me, maybe I'll get in trouble for that. I don't know. So yeah, so let's that one sentence. What is that one sentence? And let me just listen to that again here.
Sentence. One sentence. So if you're in a meeting and he says that, you punch him in the mouth as hard as you can to make your point. It's one sentence. We're not stupid. There is no paperwork, you cocksucker. He needs to be impeached. He needs to be denounced.
Okay, so the person filming this, it was a Danish filmmaker, and I forget his name, that made the movie, and it was his cameraman that was filming as the filmmaker himself was driving. And so that one sentence, I believe, is something, declaring martial law or declaring the Insurrection Act. I think he's saying that it didn't even have to be written out, because he did actually say that. And Sidney Powell was saying this. I remember her saying it on Bannon's War Room after it happened, as she was talking about that meeting and how Trump had actually, made her a special counsel to lead that investigation at the end of that meeting. And then it was Pat Cipollone and Rudy Giuliani that talked him out of it. And thankfully, thank God, they talked him out of it. Let's see. Sweet Tea says, what about Roger Stone's affiliation with Alex Jones? Absolutely, he's affiliated with Roger Stone. Yeah, that I would say, anybody that goes on Alex Jones' show very frequently, that there's clearly some level of affiliation.
And impeached. The greatest single mistake in American history. Greatest single mistake. He's surrounded by morons, and he surrounded himself by morons. And a good long sentence in prison, he'll give him a chance to think about it. Because the Southern District's coming for him, and he did nothing. You want to fight? Let's fight. Fuck you. Fuck you and your abortionist bitch daughter.
Yeah. So, that's kind of a window into his character. Now, Alex Jones or Roger Stone has gone. He keeps saying, "Well, this is just AI generated; it's a deep fake." But if that were true, deep fakes like that are illegal. It would be a swift victory. Roger Stone sues everyone. He sues everyone. He's starting to sue me. He sues everybody. And yeah, that would have been a very easy lawsuit if it were a deep fake. It would already be over, and he would be touting that victory like nothing else. And yet that hasn't happened. So, but when you look at the other details there and the story that's being told, I think that even further proves that it's not a deep fake. It can't be. Like it just logically, it just doesn't make sense. Because there's a lot of things that were said there on January 6th that I don't think would make sense to anybody who didn't have that context that we have now. Um, so that is that. I think that is a very, very important thing. If anyone, I'm working on, I don't know, that I'm working on a couple things there to try to analyze that further. But I really want to know who he's talking. You're welcome to, if you want to comment and guess who you think he's talking to. I really think that it's Flynn, but it's possible it could be Sidney Powell. Maybe it's somebody else. There's one point there where you can almost make out a voice from the phone. I'm going to try to do some work to see if I can get AI to boost that and hear what's actually being said there. So when I get that, I will share it. So that's pretty much what I had for you today. I think that as far as Kash Patel, I think he's better. He's going to be better than Chris Wray. I think he's going to investigate something that is certain. And I think that there is so much desire for all of these psyops to just end. And there's so much confusion, so much disinformation, deliberate disinformation. And we've seen the left use disinformation and then claim that what is being said when it, like in COVID, anything that was said that was against what their deliberate disinformation about the vaccines and about the virus and about the COVID deaths and, on and on, all of the disinformation that they're putting out there. And then anybody that would speak out against that, to them, that was dangerous disinformation. And then we had people like Nina Jankovic, who was she ran the Ministry of Truth. I forget exactly what it was called, but they actually set up, our own federal government under Biden set up a Ministry of Truth to police speech. And and that's just an example that where they create the problem, which is they lie, and then as the people respond, trying to seek truth and following the evidence, then they claim that is actually disinformation, and then they try to prosecute and intimidate and scare and bully and harass. But the same thing is happening on our side in different ways, and sometimes it's more subtle, sometimes it's in your face. And so Jeff and Shannon today on the MG show, they asked, so is this a was the Flynn network actually promoting Kash to try to influence Trump not to choose Kash, or they try to play some reverse psychology? And maybe they were. That very well could be. And judging by their somewhat muted response, I would have expected, if Kash really were on their side, that they would still be daily just trying to rub it in everybody's face and doing a victory lap. But after the initial, they really kind of left it up to their followers to do that. They haven't really been doing much of that at all since then. So, and then tonight now, in about an hour, Ann Vandersteel is holding an X space that I plan to listen in on. And Sidney Powell she tweeted that she's going to be on it. So that is most curious to me. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen there. And if it's newsworthy, I will share it. So next show is going to be on Wednesday. I've got several things that I'm working on, but I appreciate your support. If you check out biggertruthmedia.com, that is my Substack. And I would very much appreciate if you would subscribe there. If you haven't already, that's a good way to support me and also get access to my members only content. I do at least one podcast a week for members only there. And I'm doing a series right now with Jason Goodman. And so there's some good content there. So look forward to seeing you soon, and you're welcome to bring questions. And I appreciate all of your comments and questions here today. So this is a good show. Thank you very much, and we will see you soon.